Assalamu alaikum, shalom, shalom, hotep, Islam, alafia. What's going on, family? What's going on? Happy Monday, happy Monday. Happy Monday, what's going on, y'all? How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Waiting on my guests. We have a special episode for y'all today. Special episode. We're going to be decoding They Cloned Tyrone the movie. We're going to be decoding They Cloned Tyrone the movie with our good brother KT the Arch Degree. So I'm waiting for him to tap in with us. Episode number 44. Where we at? Episode number 44. Alright. What y'all think about the movie? I hope y'all got your questions. I hope y'all got your questions ready. Hope y'all got your questions ready to ask the good brother. Hope you got the questions ready. I ain't waiting for him to tap in. Peace, peace. What's going on, family? What's going on? Happy Monday, happy Monday. We live, we live, we live. Peace all the way from South Africa. I love the continent. Love the motherland. Love the continent. Love the motherland. I love what Niger's doing. I love what some of the African countries are doing to free themselves of colonialism, imperialism, to free themselves of the bondage that they're currently going through. Peace, peace. I'm looking to see if the good brother is joining us right now. Peace and greetings. Make sure y'all get y'all questions ready, family. Make sure y'all get y'all questions ready. The good brother will be decoding They Cloned Tyrone. So if you haven't seen it, man, you better go watch it. You better go watch it. Peace, peace.
Peace.
Peace,
Peace, brother. My bad, man.
I caught you at a bad time, beloved.
No. Of course not. Of course not. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. How about you, beloved?
I'm doing well. I can't complain, man. I want to appreciate you bringing me on out here.
Yes. First time, and this is our first time actually having someone on that decoding a movie, a documentary, anything. So thank you. It's always a first for everything. So
Hey.
I want to appreciate your time, your energy, and your wisdom as well.
Man, no problem, man. That's what we here for. Spread that message.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to read the bio, and then we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna ask you a few questions about about your life, and then we're gonna get into the movie.
All right. Yes, sir.
Bet. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, Islam, alafia. What's going on, family? What's going on? Happy Monday. Man, we have a very, very special guest here today. We will be decoding the hit movie on Netflix. Yes, you guessed it. They Cloned Tyrone. So definitely you want to stay tuned. You want to write out your questions because we're going to have a Q&A discussion as well. So this episode will be fire. Episode number 44. All right, so this great brother meets Kimani Tate, widely known as KT the Arch Degree. He's a powerful advocate for holistic health and transformative energy. He is born in the Virgin Islands. Kimani's journey began with his mother, Annette Thomas, wife of the renowned herbalist Dr. Sebi, faced a life-threatening pregnancy. They shared triumph births, Kimani's lifelong passion for natural healing. All right, so despite experiencing deep personal loss, Kimani found renewed purpose, dedicating his life to holistic healing and helping patients transition from dependency on prescribed medication. His reputation blossomed, attracting the likes of Erica Badu, Andre Benjamin of Outkast, Tamara Taj Jackson George of SWV, NBA player Jaylen Brown, R&B singer Summer Walker, Meech, actress Nikki Berheni. My apologies if I mispronounce the
Sorry.
name. And, and actor Timon Durant or Durant.
Durkit.
Oh, Durkit.
Mm-hmm.
Today as the CEO of So Iconic Botanicals and
So Ionic.
Bananics. Say that again?
So Ionic.
Oh, So Ionic.
That's
Excuse me.
right.
So Ionic Botanicals and a sought after lecturer. Kimani stands as a beacon of holistic health, guiding others back to nature, health, and self. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please welcome KT, the Arch Degree.
Oh man, thank you, brother.
Again, welcome, brother. That was a long bio. But again, I want to welcome you to DTR 360 Books podcast show. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So we want to know, what was your upbringing like growing up with your father, gaining an appreciation for African art and African culture?
All right. So I came up under Dr. Sebi. He was my stepfather because my mother married him when she was pregnant with me. My biological father is George Edward Tate, who's the poet laureate of Harlem. So I learned a great deal of our people, our culture, about Africa, and who I was as a man from my father. He was known as the Lion of Harlem. He used to head the Marcus Garvey Parade. He had a jazz club called what is it? The Lounge, the Liberty Lounge. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I think it was the Liberty Lounge. And he would showcase live bands and jazz in there. He had a food co-op in Harlem. He wrote plays and screenplays, and then he's the author of numerous books. His main book is called At War, where his famous poem, I Am a Black Man, is in there. So, he raised me, let me know I was a black man, because before then, Sebi and my mother I was Earth's child. You know what I'm saying? Like it was about nature. It was about health. It was about healing, and things like that. But I didn't really have the understanding of what our people had been going through, for so long, and what we were still going through until I met my father. He really put that down on me. So I was blessed enough to come up under the guidance, the tutelage of both fathers, George Edward Tate and Dr. Sebi.
And that's deep, because not too many people can say that they had two fathers growing up, right?
No.
And you have one father teaching you about African art, about jazz music, about African culture. And then you had the other father teaching you about, health, wellness, eating right, herbs, so on and so forth. So speaking of Dr. Sebi, what was your relationship like with Dr. Sebi? One, and if you can give us two takeaways from Dr. Sebi's teachings that still sticks with you to this day.
Well, I always tell the story that one of the main takeaways from Dr. Sebi I'll never forget, because it pretty much changed my outlook on reality, and I'm the person I am today because of that, is the fact that he gave me mushrooms as a child.
Okay.
Psychedelic, psychedelic.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He gave me mushrooms when I was 10 months years old. I was just a baby,
Wow.
you know? So just taking away the fact that that's a forgotten process that we used to be able to implement these entheogens in the youth as they were developing to prepare them for the world as they got older. So that's definitely one thing that I took away from him that was very impactful on me. And then another thing is always, you know, the gorilla and the polar bear story he would tell about, you know, polar bears growing in the Arctic, gorillas being in the jungle. If you put them in each other's habitat, they would die. And that gave rise to the understanding of phenotype, you know, and understanding how our genes are one thing, but we have something called epigenetics based on the environment that we live in. So he was talking about epigenetics and phenotype, but that's what griots do. You know what I'm saying? They don't get into the whole complex, super metaphysical, quantum mechanical term. They I don't even want to say dumb it down. They condense matter. You know what I'm saying? Into a simplified form. So no matter your age or your background, you could walk away with the understanding of it.
Wow. Wow. And so is this the reason why you wear your fro to look like the mushroom thing?
Just turned out that way.
Because
You know,
when I seen it, it kind of, the fro looks like.
My father had an afro. My mother had an afro. When I was young and I just moved to Brooklyn because I was born in the Virgin Islands and then we lived in Harlem and then we moved to Brooklyn. Okay. And when I was a kid, I had an afro. I didn't know that's what it was. Wow. I was just my hair. It was just, my hair was allowed to grow.
And this was the 90s? This was the 90s?
Yeah, this was the 80s. This was okay. This was the late 80s, going into the 90s because I was born in 81. Okay. You know, a lot of people, I tell them I'm 40, they 41, they be like, wait, you what? Right. Right. They be like, you tripping, bro. But no, I just made the observation eventually. I was like, wow, I look like I got a mushroom cap on my head. It wasn't anything that I like planned on doing. It just kind of worked out that way, you know. Indeed, indeed. Well, the family loves the afro, by the way. I see a lot of comments about your fro. I get it all the time. Bashuto Brown, I get Afro Samurai, I get Undercover Brother. What else they say? I get a car wash all the time. All the time. It's always something. Indeed, indeed. Well, let's get into it, brother. Let's start the discussion off with what was your reaction when you seen they cloned Tyrone? Well, the interesting thing is I saw the advertisement for this movie almost 2 years ago. It was probably 18 months ago. They dropped the shot in the elevator. And I was like, oh, this looked like it's going to be dope because it had Tiana in there. It had John Boyega, had Jamie Foxx, and they was going to be talking about cloning our people in the ghetto, in the hood. Right. They hadn't had a trailer yet. It was just like put out there. So I saw that picture sometime. I've been looking forward to it. So by the time it came out, you know, and I had seen the trailer, I was definitely looking forward to it because people are always asking me to decode movies, but you know, Hollywood has been, the movies have been really watered down based on the whole Me Too movement, and feminism have really impacted a lot of the films. So masculinity became toxic. You know, they have females in these roles where they have no challenge. Like, I don't have a problem with women being in roles, but the whole point of watching a film or a movie is to see people go through hardships and turmoil and kind of persevere. But they started making all these movies where just because it was a woman, she was just blessed with all this power and no responsibility and no challenge. And the only reason why she got this is because she was a woman. You know what I'm saying? And then they just had a lot of other just things that were just poorly written. So, you know, Hollywood just wasn't doing well. And when I say Hollywood, I'm just talking about film in general. So so people were asking KT, when are you gonna break something down? I'm like, you know, I ain't really, you know, the animated films are probably the best things to break down right now. I'm like, when I find something that I'm interested in, because I got to be passionate about it to really want to go in, I will. Right. So I saw they clone Tyrone. I was like, well, here we go. Here we go. So Brother Rich wanted to do a show. Big shout out to Brother Rich and Black Magic 363. And he didn't know what he wanted the topic to be about. And I was like, yo, let's talk about they clone Tyrone. He hadn't seen it. So I told him the premise, and he looked it up, and he was like, yeah, so we talk about cloning and AI and kind of tied. I was like, bet. So I only saw the movie once, and he decided to do that show, I think, the day before we did it. It was only about a day, maybe 2 days, you know. But like when I'm really passionate about a film, I see it. Right. I see what's happening. So, you know, I just did the presentation real quick, slapped that together, and we did that show, and everybody loves the show, you know.
Right. All right, so let's get into the movie, right?
Yeah.
So, and family, if you have any questions, please drop them in the question box so that we can also ask Brother KT about the movie as well. So we see that they didn't clone the female character, Yo-Yo, who played the prostitute, right?
Right.
They cloned Jamie character as Slick Charles the Pimp. They cloned him. They also cloned John Boyega's the drug dealer who played Fontaine.
Right.
So why is that? Why they cloned the brothers and they didn't clone the sisters?
Well, you got to remember that women are men are leaders. You know, in an ideal situation, right? You have a man that is running the household. You have a woman that is by his side and is supporting it. And even when you look at the government and you look at things that go on in our community, only thing they have to do is go after the male, take the male out of the equation, and then they can manipulate the woman to do whatever they want. And we see that in our community right now when you talk about child support, when you talk about you know, food stamps and all the aid programs and everything that goes on. They assume the role of the male, you know, and they push the male out. Right. So it's like, as long as they're not there to truly do what they need to do in the community, then there's a open space for a man to occupy, you see, and that's exactly the space that they occupy to get the woman to do what they want. Secondly, is because it's the woman and she's the mitochondria. There's no replacing that brings life through, you see. So she just represented a genuine article, an original state, you know what I mean, that is not to be copied. And you know, women you know, women are like, they're powerful, you know what I'm saying? So it was a way to show their true power as well, because at the end of the day, she's the reason why everything came together. Because if they didn't snatch her up, then Jamie and Fontaine wouldn't have gotten over it, you know what I mean? Their fear and their cowardice to save her, and in saving her, liberated the entire community, or the mind for that matter.
Right. Wow, indeed. So we've seen that there is an increasingly amount of United Kingdom actors starring in hit movies in the United States, right? If you don't know, John Boyega, he's from the UK, born and raised in the UK.
He's Nigerian, though.
He's Liberian.
Nigerian.
Oh, Nigerian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that Boyega is actually an abbreviation. He has a real long African name, but that's his like stage name.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, I just seen that he was born and raised in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that being said, do you think that the movie would have looked and felt different if like a black, quote unquote, US born American would have played Fontaine?
Yeah, I know they were originally supposed to be getting I forget the brother's name is escaping me, but Paperboy from ATL, the show ATL.
Okay, yeah. I haven't watched.
Yeah. He played Paperboy on there. He's the voice to Miles Morales' father on Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse too. You've seen him before, but he was actually supposed to play the role of Fontaine initially, and he got replaced with John Boyega. Now, you know, we've been seeing it with the Harriet Tubmans, and a lot of the other roles, as well as
Idris Elba.
Not just Idris Elba. I'm thinking about Daniel Kaluuya, Fred Hampton.
Right, Fred.
Yeah, he did the Fred Hampton joint. So yeah, you know, it's very interesting that they're outsourcing our stories,
Exactly.
not letting us tell our own tales. And you know, it's because when it comes to just art, period, that just has this kind of universal appeal, it all stems from America.
Right.
No, it stems from us and our communities and our neighborhoods. And essentially it's two sides to it, because if it's acting, then that would be some real acting. Like, to get somebody from here, it would really be acting. They would really kind of be embodying what it is. But to pull, you know, somebody from Britain and really take the title to a whole new level, where they're cloning the stereotypical hood nigga, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? That's exactly what Boyega was doing in there. They even have a promotional video where they have John Boyega and Fontaine doing an interview together, and he's playing off each other, and everything is brilliant, you know. So, you know, quality over quantity. My thing, if somebody knows how to do the work, they know how to do the work. You know, I definitely believe it's a reason to it all, because, you know, it's just always a problem giving America its due. Even when we look at the history of this land, like, everybody has antiquatal history all over the world. We talk about Africa, we talk about South America, we talk about China, the Middle East, but when it comes to America, like where the United States sits at, it's like, it's just slavery, and that's a lie. We had a whole empire over here, you know what I'm saying? And there's a reason why we have the style and swag that we do, you know, but it always gets overlooked. Unfortunately, they only look at it as a means to execute it by way of other actors and other people, like they do with, you know, everybody from Europe. You know, British invasion, but with our own people, you know?
Yeah, so that was definitely like an eye opener. Like, wow, I'm pretty sure like a brother, as you said, like from the hood would have done just as great or even better, because they lived through that experience already. And they're already in it.
Would have definitely did it, and John Boyega did an exceptional job.
He did.
I'm not knocking him at all.
Right.
But it was a role he was playing.
Right.
You know, but yeah, we would have carried somebody who would have been seamless. And we used to have them back in the day when we was watching Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. We had a whole stint, you know what I'm saying? And some of those characters, it was like they were not acting. Like, you go back to those movies and look, and it's like they was not acting.
Seamless.
Oh
Yeah. Man. So we talked about you know, the father, and so let's talk about the mother, right? So the mother in the movie was a recorder, and it seemed like he was, as you know, he was getting shot and then coming back to life. He, you know, did a series of events over and over. So he, you know, asked his mom over and over if she wanted something to eat, and she gave the same answer over and over. So it's a two-part question. So why do you think Fontaine didn't go in the room sooner than he did? And two, did the government, and I don't think this was in the movie, but do you think that the government killed the mother, or how did the mother die?
Remember, he don't have a mother because he's a clone.
Well, I mean, he had a mother at some point in time, right?
The old Fontaine did, so she's probably been dead because he's old. Remember, Fontaine is a clone of him, and we don't even know how many times when we see Fontaine in the movie, that's not the first time he was cloned. He been cloned. That's why, that's another reason why it looked like the 70s all the way to the 2000s. Because that dude could have been being cloned for 30, 40 years.
Wow.
You know
Over and over and over again.
Right.
So wait, how many times can you clone a person?
Well, based on that movie, he figured it out. They were just knocking them things out, because when they went downstairs, you saw they had multiple. They had about 5 or 6 of them on ice.
Right.
But that's what's on ice. They might have had another 10, 20 of them cooking. And remember, Fontaine was old. He looked like he was all shriveled up. That dude was probably, black people, we don't crack.
Right.
So when we look like a shriveled up raisin, we about 85 by that time. He was probably like 80 or something. You know what I mean? And Fontaine being in his 20s, that's a 60-year difference. He could have been cloning for 60 years.
Wow. So you're saying that the mother was probably gone already.
Yeah, there was never a mother, because the Fontaine we saw never had a childhood.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? He was born as a grown man. He just had the memories of the original Fontaine. So he never went to middle school. He never had a 5-year-old birthday party. You know what I'm saying? He never popped firecrackers on July 4th when he was 10 years old. He didn't have those experiences.
He never had a water fight.
Yeah. So every time because he's a drug dealer. So how much time does he have before he gets shot, murked, or killed again? Like, that's probably happening 2-3 times a year. And every time he wakes back up, he's that age, and there's a recording in the room.
Right. So I'm going to speak about that. So what do you think that message is, or symbolism? As the tradition?
Tradition. The fact that society, like I said, the man gets moved out. Men are disagreeable. Women are agreeable. Okay, so you move the man out the situation. Now you have a malleable situation here where you can now manipulate somebody, right, to get to do what you want. So you start to implement tradition onto somebody who's going to accept it. And as a child, you're getting fed this implemented tradition, even though it has no true standing. It has no value to you, to your genetics in the future, to your people, to your environment. It's only to your detriment. But because it's been fed and indoctrinated to someone, and that person is constantly just regurgitating that to you, and you're seeing that mother as authority, then you're just taking that information in. So that's what because majority of our situations are single parent households. So in single parent households, who's teaching us? We're learning from the mother. And in a lot of situations, the mother is just regurgitating what they're learning in church. Okay. What they're learning by the government, what they're learning watching their stories. Because what she say, I'm just sitting here watching the stories, baby. Oh, no, I just had the fish fry at the community center. So they was telling you the different places that she was getting influenced by. She was getting influenced by church. She was getting influenced by stories. She was getting influenced by this, that, and other, talking on the phone, gossiping with her girlfriends. You see what I'm saying? So based on that, that's what she would regurgitate to the child. So yes, it was just a recording to show that it was artificial. That's not a real mother. A mother that does that is not a real mother. A mother is connected to the earth and is going to disseminate the information that comes from the mother.
Deep. Man, so I guess we could agree that Fontaine, the character, was parentless. He didn't have a mother and he didn't have a father.
Yeah, and then he's a clone, so he couldn't have one. He can't have a mother or father. He's being cloned. So they were showing that in real time, and that's how we're looked as being cloned, because we come up without our parents too.
Yeah, some of us, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, in a sense, and as you implied before, that Fontaine didn't have a childhood. Do you think this is why he was closely connected to the little boy? And speak on that. Because the little boy reminded him of his little brother, correct? And his little brother was murdered and so forth. So speak on that dynamic of Fontaine not having a childhood, and then the little boy comes into play, and he has it seemed like he had an affinity to the little boy, and he cared for the little boy.
Yeah, and an innate feeling or longing for that experience, because he never had it. He was never a child. He was never sipping on Capri Suns looking at SpongeBob.
Right, right.
He never had that experience. As far as he know, goes in the mouth, killing my brother, selling drugs, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, knocking on my mama's door that never answers. Like, that's all he knows. And then the child's name was Junebug, which is the quintessential. You let me know one hood that exists in America where there's not a Junebug. That's something we all relate to. That's like a Jamal.
Yeah.
That's like a Keisha.
Right.
Who don't know Keisha? Shantae. Who don't know a Keisha, Shantae, or Jamal? Right. So Junebug is that quintessential nickname that exists. And him being the youth, remember, youth are what? They're sponges. That's why he's talking about SpongeBob SquarePants, because they're impressionable upon what we give them. And we start seeing him asking, yo, is Fontaine at the house? Because he's being his eyes and ears on the street, where he ended up getting that guy ran over by the car because he was selling drugs in his area, in his territory. So already impressing upon him, or him being a sponge, soaking up that violent behavior and leading towards becoming that whole Fontaine archetype. You see what I mean? So he was trying to eventually kind of keep him as a child so he wouldn't get caught up in that type of world. He kept saying, I'm right here, Fontaine. What you need, man? Just let me know. You know, because he wanted, he was being fed that lifestyle, you know, so those are part of it. And then, yes, of course, he reminded him of Ronald Chamberlain, his little brother, but you know, he never experienced losing a little brother. It's just a false memory. So that implanted memory that he had caused him to have this connection with this with Junebug, to essentially take him in as a younger brother and implement that type of archetype and impose it on him as he soaks it up on a sponge. And then I also talked about how the SpongeBob, the reason why they kept referencing that is because SpongeBob lives in Bikini Bottom. And Bikini Bottom is actually in an area in the Pacific Ocean called the Bikini Atoll. Now, folks don't know that the Bikini Atoll is a location where in the late 40s and 50s, this is where America was testing all of their nuclear bombs at, which was just created by Oppenheimer, which is a film that came out the same weekend. So that was giving rise to the radiation and the bomb being dropped on our communities constantly, just creating genocide and mutations, where we end up kind of being in this state of being destitute, you know, unfortunately. And, you know, that was another parallel that I was able to get out of that.
Indeed, indeed. Deep. Now, we also saw in the movie that they were drugging us, right? They drugged us at every point that they got, in the church, definitely on the street, definitely in our foods, in the restaurant. And so we, you know, those who know that this is not nothing new, right? We always knew that they was drugging us in our foods, poisoning us in our, you know, hair chemicals, hair products in the church, and so forth. Why do you think that they put that particular message in the movie? And how does that relate to the hood?
Well, you know, King Alfred plan, which was introduced some time ago, is a plan that talks about the coordination of the tactical execution of pretty much usurping our community and our people from our position of being, you know, God's chosen people, for being those of nature and people of the sun. And the way you do that is by creating a disconnect between the people and the environment, the people in nature, the people in purpose, in regards to their divine nature. And you do this through biological warfare. You do this through the television, you do this through the radio, but you definitely do it through the food. And a lot of the foods are processed and full of chemicals. So we got MSG, you know, for you know, the people that are eating, you know, all the chips and the soups and stuff like that. And then even for the vegans who go the healthy route, you know, they get the nutritional yeast, which is an excitotoxin, you know, that affects the brain, you know. And then they also, Jamie referenced tapioca when he was, when he had the scientists hemmed up on the wall, the scientists with the afro, he was going through the process of assimilation. He called them tapioca, which is another food that is slipped into our community in the form of cassava, you know, and tapioca starch, especially in the vegan community. And tapioca has linamarin, which is converted into cyanide upon digestion. This shuts down cytochrome 4 of the electron transport chain, which, you know, can have a very fatal result, you know, of death. You know, interesting, he ended up getting shot and died, you know.
Right.
But, you know, just showing through compound H, you know, which is mysterious white powder, of how they put these chemicals in all of these foods and the things that we use, because they know they're going to alter and break down and disable our faculties within our body's physiology and psychology.
Mm. And so, do you think that because they're doing this, i.e., tampering with our foods, that we are behaving the way that we're behaving, and we
Most
are
definitely.
thinking or lack of thinking, and it's the reason why we're in the condition that we're in because of the foods that we're eating?
Of course, most definitely, because, you know, when you talk about being sad, when you talk about being happy, when you talked about feeling relaxed, when you say you have energy and you're active, or you're sleepy and you're tired, these all have chemical parallels to them. You know, feeling good is going to be serotonin. Being motivated is going to be dopamine. You know, you have endorphins that can act as sedatives, you know, inside your body. So we have chemicals that back up all of our moods. All right, our emotions are a byproduct of chemicals being created in the body, and the stimulus of creating these chemicals is light, sound, you know, water, and the food that we eat. So if you understand that dopamine is motivation, then you can create Instagram that causes you to overuse dopamine to the point of dopamine insensitivity. So now you can get rewarded without putting any work in, and that destroys the whole system of motivation, because the only reason why you get an award and feel anything about the award is because you put hard work into whatever it is you did, and someone rewarded you by acknowledging your hard work. But if you take the hard work away, then everything falls apart. So these powders and these chemicals definitely going to affect the mood, as the chicken made everybody laugh, and the grape juice made everybody obedient, and the perm made everybody forgetful and sedative. So you got sleepy and just didn't feel like being motivated anymore. It's almost a depression. You know what I'm saying? These are all chemicals that can be synthesized and implemented in the body to get a desired result. And that's what they were showing in there. And they kept referencing Hollow Man because at this point, they've mastered chemicals to the degree where they can put things in food and it be undetectable as if it's invisible.
Wow.
And unseen.
So like what they're doing right now with the lab meats?
The lab meats as well as the jab. You know, the serum is clear. No one can, you can't see anything in it, but based on temperature as well as certain light being on it, all of a sudden it starts to reveal different colors, and then you can start studying and see what's in it. So yeah, you know, a lot of this food that we're dealing with, one of the most invisible properties that we deal with is deuterium, because deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen. Isotope just means it's the same element, it's still hydrogen, but it has a different number of nuclei. So protium has a proton and electron, deuterium has a proton, a neutron, and an electron. Well, in the body, you can switch deuterium out for protium because they're both hydrogens. And the pharmaceutical companies use this process, it's called deuteration, where when they're synthesizing a lot of things that are not stable, they stabilize it by switching to hydrogen with deuterium. Deuterium, even though we use it in our body in high amounts, it's very detrimental to us. You know what I mean? It damages the body on an extraordinary exponential scale. So that's another way of looking at it right there, is it being an invisible implementing element that's placed under us that we would never know, because it's on that level.
Right. Now, you touched on the compound H being implemented into like the perms that we used to put on women's hair and head, and that affected how they think and act. Why do you think that that chemical was only to target women?
Oh, well, you know, once again, you know, women are the ones that deal with commerce, right? So, you know, when we deal with products and things of that nature, they always aim at the woman with everything that they advertise, because once the woman accepts it, then they're going to talk to the man, because the man wants that woman, then they're gonna take it in themselves. You know what I mean? So you want the woman, because women are also very what's the word, observant. You know what I mean? If you got a woman by your side, she's gonna see a lot of things you don't see. She's gonna tap on your shoulder and be like this, that, and third. But if you hit her with a sedative, if you hit her with something that obscures her vision, so she's not sharp anymore, and things of that nature, then the man doesn't have that on his side any longer. So it's really playing off both races so that they are able to neutralize their strengths, so they can't work collectively like they did in the movie. The three of them were able to work collectively to get a desired result. None of them were able to do it on their own. They were only able to do it together.
Yes. And I think that that alludes to the point of unity is key.
Yeah.
That also alludes to the point of, as one being a prostitute, one being a drug dealer, and a pimp, they all own their own quote-unquote identity, if you will, but yet they will still manage to come to a common goal, right? And so I think that speaks to our relationship of us being individuals, having our own identity, whether it be we identify as Moors, Hebrew Israelites, children of Israel, Muslims, Christians, so on and so forth. We haven't come to that common goal yet of working together and being in unison with one another, but yet we've seen that on film. And I think personally that was a great depiction of unity and everyone coming together for a greater goal.
Oh yeah, especially when Jamie got the hood together and they were rolling down all them box Chevys, them drop top box Chevys. That was the classic scene right there.
Indeed,
Yeah, but I
indeed.
got the whole hood with me.
Right.
You know
Do
what I
you
mean?
think that we can come together in unison, though, to achieve a greater goal,
Of course.
greater
I mean,
than ourselves?
we've come together before, you know, and I feel we'll come together again. We're coming together right now. We're all talking about, like, there's one thing all black people got in common right now, and that is they clone Tyrone. ain't, ain't nobody I know not talk about this movie on one level or another. So we definitely have common denominators amongst each other, you know. And it doesn't always have to. Remember, that movie was based on the Glen coming together, a small hood, right out in the middle of wherever. Okay, and it just took them to do what they did. That then did what? Created a domino effect, and then all the other cities started waking up automatically because, you know, we got quantum mechanics involved. We're talking about quantum entanglement and superposition. So, you know, we have dances that we'll do in St. Louis, and then in Virginia, they'll start doing the same or a similar dance. You know what I mean? Without no one contacting each other,
Right.
because we're on that same wavelength. So it doesn't have to take whatever the percentile of black people is out of the 8 billion people on this planet to come together. It only takes the right ones to come together, you know? So when the right ones are able to come together, then we're able to make it happen. We had the same situation, and they called Tyrone, as they had in Minority Report, where they had the precogs, you know, and the precogs was based on 3 individuals submerged in water that was able to tap into the future, right? So in this situation, we got Fontaine and we got Slick. Fontaine means water. Slick means oil or water too. You know what I mean? And then you had the woman in the center, just like you had Agatha and the 2 twins, representing that H2O energy. You know, so, you know, we don't have to have large amounts of people coming together. We just need to have enough quality people coming together doing something effective, and that effective action will reverberate. You know, effective actions are not contained. They shoot out in all directions. They are nonlinear effects, meaning the smallest little thing creates large results and large effects. And that's what we need to do. So we start in our family, we start in our household, we start in our community. You know, we start with ourselves, you know, and like-minded individuals come together and do the work.
Yes, yes, indeed. I agree with that 1000%. There was a comment that asked a question. They said that, are they cloning people right now?
Oh yeah, definitely people getting cloned. Yeah, they cloning folks because they started off cloning frogs, and that's the reason why his name was Frog too.
Who?
The drunkard, the elder outside the liquor store.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Okay.
Yeah, not only that, but every time he was pouring liquor in his cup, that was Anaconda malt liquor from Black Dynamite. Did you see Black Dynamite?
Nah.
Oh yeah, Black Dynamite you got to see that. That's a classic. It was a similar movie where they were sneaking something into the malt liquor, and what it was a powder. It was some type of drug that was shrinking. What is it called? It's called hypogonadism, which is a condition where a man's phallus, his penis, his testicles shrink to like the size of a Smurf. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't packing no more. So they were putting something in the malt liquor to shrink, you know, the male's parts, and that's hitting towards affecting fertility, you know what I mean, and libido and reproduction and everything like that. So they actually had the liquor from that movie in this movie.
Okay.
Right, and that's what he was pouring in Frog's cup. But his name was Frog because frogs were one of the first animals that were cloned. And the new species of organism that man created on this planet, called a xenobot, is named after Xenobus laevis, which is the clawed African frog, the African clawed frog. You know, so you know, there's layers and layers and layers on top of layers, you know, in this movie, man. And
Right.
and Frog, you know what I'm saying? He just represented that amphibious, 1 foot in, 1 foot out situation. You know, even though he looked like he was crazy, homeless, and everything like that, he was really the only one that knew what was going on.
Right, right. And I think someone said this on Brother Rich's channel, saying that when Fontaine was pouring the malt liquor into the cup, that was a form of libation.
Libation to the ancestors, to the elders, right?
Right,
Yeah.
indeed, indeed. Right. So yeah, that part right there was deep as well. That was deep. All right, so let's talk about Jamie Foxx's performance, right? I think this is the first time that he's like playing a pimp, according to my recollection.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever played a pimp before.
Right. And he mentioned, you know, 3, 4, 5 times that he was the pimp of the year. Why do you think that there was a need to reference that? And then just in general, talk about Jamie Foxx's performance.
Well, I know in 1995, Pimp of the Year was a big thing on Martin. That was a big episode of Martin. You know, Martin was out in 1995, and he did that episode where Jerome won Pimp of the Year on there, and that was in 95. And then on top of that, it was a reference to switching the timelines up, because they would say Hollow Man, and that's 2000. Pimp of the Year 95. You know what I'm saying? They had beepers. Homeboy's name was Nixon. That's the 70s. You know what I'm saying? You talked about Obama. That's 2008. You know, so they kept having all of these time references that were showing, you know, that it was across the board. In addition to that, he mentioned that he said, I never was Pimp of the Year. And I know people are confused about that. And the reason why he made that statement is because he realized he was a clone. He went downstairs and he saw himself. So he's like, shit, I never fucking won. That wasn't me. I was never Pimp of the Year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Man, and so talk about Jamie's performance. How you think his performance was?
Oh, his performance. I mean, Jamie always puts in work, and I know he had to look at it because so many people play pimps, so he had to find his lane. You know what I mean? So it would. I thought he gave an exceptional performance. You know, through the movie, he was extremely entertaining. He had great timing, and I think he really, because John Boyega, his was like Juilliard. You know, I'm a thespian, right? You had Tiona, who's coming up. You know what I mean? In the acting world, you know, getting her chops and everything by working with different people. And she's a Black woman, so I don't know how much acting she really needed to do. I think a lot of that role was her, you know, and I love seeing her in films because she's so authentic. And this was a very authentic role. Not her being a hoe, not her being a prostitute, her being a sister, because she didn't even give hoe, prostitute, slut energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
She just seemed like a sister, you know what I mean? And the way she was dressing, women dress like that now. You know what I'm saying? In the streets, and they ain't no hooker, you know. I think she did an exceptional job. But Jamie played a foundation to both of them in regards to their acting on set. I think he was kind of that glue, you know what I'm saying, that was able to provide that, you know what I mean? And him being the pimp, a pimp having to have a certain type of mind state, because, you know, when you're talking drug dealer, you know, hooker and pimp, yeah, they're frowned upon in the hood, of course, because, you know, you don't want your children to grow up to be that. But when you're dealing with those type of people, these are people that are making the best with what they got, You know, they're making something out of nothing. They're being extremely intelligent. They're dealing with people. You know, they have a certain type of mind state and execution that they got to do. And, you know, being able to take those type of mind states and put it on the detective, or put it on the conspiracy, or put it on the liberation, that's the message. It's like, that's what Jesus was around. He was around the prostitutes and the pimps and the people in the hood, right? That's who he was macking with, right? Sebi was in the hood talking to the people in the street. So it's like, those are the people that are going to liberate the hood, not no clean cut super fly mother lover coming out of nowhere. He ain't about to come up in the community and save everybody. It's going to be people from that community that are respected in that community that are going to be able to do that.
And I think and this is why that they implement or push so much of, you know, these derogatory music that we're listening to, you know, these processed foods that we're eating, because as J. Edgar Hoover once said, that he feared another Black Messiah coming up and you know, galvanizing and mobilizing Black people.
And that's who Tyrone represents, because we go through the whole movie and most people don't even pay attention that his name's Fontaine.
Right.
It's not till the end of the movie do we see a Tyrone, because it took the wakening up of the mind from within, because that's the Glen represents the mind. When they was in the elevator going down to the lab, that represents the subconscious. They were descending into the subconscious mind. You see, every Glen means a narrow space in a valley. You know, that's talking about in between the hemispheres of the brain, you know, subconscious mind. So once that liberation took place in the mind, Tyrone was able to wake up. Okay. So he was sitting in there smoking weed, and he turned, you looking at the TV, and he saw a clone of himself. You know, so that showed the waking up, you know, Neo waking up in the Matrix, you know. Yeah.
Right, man. I wanted to touch on the music for a bit. We seen that the DJ, where, you know, it was like the club scene. He was playing, you know, like hype music or something like that. You know, everyone was dancing around. He started to slow down the music. You know, everyone started to, you know, slow dance and so forth. So again, if you know, you know. Some of us know that music does have an effect on the subconscious mind, and it kind of predicates on what you think and how you think. So talk about that a little bit of the music being played in that scene in the movie, and it basically just had everyone going along to what the DJ was playing.
Yeah. So ain't no mamas playing heavy metal when they pregnant. Ain't no mama putting heavy metal music on their belly. Playing none of that. They playing classical, they playing jazz. You know what I'm saying? They in nature listening to birds chirping, because you're talking about a life form being built submerged in amniotic fluid, which is just water. So we all know that water is able to, that sound moves very quick in water, and that water is psychoreactive. It picks up the energy and the intent from words and from music. So when you got words on instrument, you know that's it on a whole nother level, you know? Yeah. So water is very, very sensitive to sound. We're 90% water. So we get affected by the frequencies of the music that we hear.
Right.
We have somatics, which is a process where you take a membrane of film, you stretch it out, you put sand on there in a very random way, and this membrane is directly connected to, you know, it's like a speaker membrane. So when you turn on the music, the membrane is going to vibrate whatever sound is being emitted. And when you do that, the sand starts to take on certain geometries. And this is how we're formed. We're formed and we're created by way of sound manipulating the dust, the ash that makes our body up. So what happens when you play disorienting music? What happens